How do everybody? I hope you've all had a nice weekend. I just want to get straight to it. I just want to talk about a couple of stories that I've seen over the weekend. I'll share where I found these articles as well. It's by a gentleman called Stephen Edgington. I just want to go a little bit deeper into these articles than what he says. The first one, it's to do with how the Home Office has got what I believe to be a pro-Islamic, pro-Islamisation of the UK organisation embedded within it, and the second article relates to it as well. So this is by GB News. I'll put the link in the article. I'll put all links in below for you in the description. So if you want to check these out yourself, you can do. So exposed how Home Office Islamic network aims to recruit Muslim staff and influence policymakers from the inside. Now, for most people who've watched a lot of my videos, you won't be surprised on what my views are on that, and I do think that there is actually a fifth column operating within the industry, within the infrastructure of the United Kingdom. So for me to have this actually exposed, I think is just like as obvious as morning following it at night time. So the Islamic network has over 700 members of Home Office staff who say their aim is to influence government policy. Now, to be fair, that word influence could be interpreted in a lot of ways. I myself think that to have an organisation called the Islamic Network and that they want to influence the government, I do personally see that as a form of attempted colonisation of the institutions and of the country as a whole. And I do believe that this is very similar to what happened in countries like Iran when they had their Islamic revolution as well. Where they allowed Islamists to get into prominent positions and before they eventually had the violent and bloody revolution of the country. Very dangerous. And for anybody who's interested as well, the Home Office employs around 35,000 people. So this is about 1 in 50 people, or 2% of the actual staff are directly involved in this organisation at the Home Office, which is quite dangerous because then there's also going to be the people who are actually directly involved in the organisation, but are affiliated with it as well. So the Home Office Islamic Network aims to recruit Muslim staff and influence policymakers to support Muslim needs, a GB News investigation can reveal. I mean, that's very dangerous, I think. The fact that that there is an organisation within the Home Office which is specifically involved in working towards the aims of a group of people who are not covered by the entirety of the United Kingdom. Very, very dangerous. And that is, to me, Civil War stuff. Not necessarily hot Civil War, but definitely cold Civil War stuff, or going into the head, an indicator of that happening. Very, very dangerous that has been allowed to happen. And for it to end up being 2% of the staff of the Home Office, that hasn't it's not like a very tight clique of people of 5 or 10 people, where they're keeping everything on the down low and they're trying to influence from the shadows, so to speak. This is incredibly overt. And the fact that the Home Office are allowing this to happen, I think shows the weakness in the British systems, where they are literally allowing people who I believe have a foreign ideology, which is incompatible with the United Kingdom, to try and influence policy in our country. And it explains a lot why we see things like the border force bringing over so many people, why we see so many rubber stamps happening with illegal migrants, and why so many legal migrants are allowed into the country as well. It's exactly, in my opinion, a direct result of this organisation. Things like this are being allowed to happen, and this kind of anti-British sentiment being fostered within the Home Office itself. Very, very dangerous. Leaked documents show that a group of 700 civil servants say their aim to promote the recruitment, retention and progression of Muslim staff in the Home Office and influence policymakers so that policy is more inclusive of Muslim needs. So that is obviously worded in a way so that it sounds okay. But as we've seen with things like hate crime bills and how racism laws are applied and all that sort of stuff, that means prioritisation of Muslims and Islam. And it means putting everything else on the back burner. GB News has seen a list of their aims published on an internal government website, which also include to promote a clear understanding of generic Islam, provide advice and guidance to senior civil service management on religious issues that affect Muslim staff, and facilitate the support of Home Office engagement with external stakeholders from Muslim communities. Well, that I think is absolute rubbish, because I think it was last year where they were celebrating World Hijab Day. And it was something like that. I can't remember which government organisation. I think it was the Home Office, and they said that women voluntarily wear the hijab, which is absolute poppycock. We all know what happens to women who don't wear the hijab in these sorts of countries. We see it all the time on the internet. They get flogged and beaten, and some women get raped as well by the people who are then doing that to them. So this is absolute rubbish, and this also coincides as well. And I might do a video on this as well with how I think it's the Home Office as well have been providing guidance on there being that something like up to 1/3 of Britons during the Roman period were immigrants. And that's what they're training the staff, which is an absolute lie, by the way. It was less than 1% at the time. Absolute crazy. The Home Office is completely captured ideologically at this point. According to the leaked document, the Home Office network, set up in 2005, does not allow non-Muslim staff to become full members. They can sign up to be associate members only. That's what I'm saying about those that are floating around on the periphery. The Home Office whistleblower told GB News, having an Islamic lobby group inside the Home Office represents a serious threat to the government's aims in combating Islamic extremism and granting asylum to those fleeing Islamic countries over religious persecution. Well, it isn't. It's also going to be a massive problem when it comes to trying to deport Islamic extremists as well. So it's not just people coming into the country. It's going to be and also the representation of statistics and organisations. It's why the organisation Prevent, which was created although it's for all extremism, it was brought in because of Islamic extremism, and yet it's now hyper focused on the far right, because the far right is the one that's blowing people up and raping kids on an industrial scale, isn't it? No, it's Islamists and people with extreme Muslim ideology. But it's this sort of thing that's pushing it in that direction. It's why these sorts of crimes. It's probably why the police have covered up those crimes for so many years, because of organisations like this existing as well, and why councillors are allowed to behave in the ways that they do. And I don't want to rabbit on too much about that. It's stuff that most people already know about. So the network has already produced pro-hijab propaganda. Oh, well, there we go. That's what I was talking about before. Pro-hijab propaganda, which is sent to asylum seeker decision makers in the Home Office, and explicitly states its aim to influence policy to support their religious goals. I mean, that is crazy. Absolutely crazy that this is allowed to happen, and how this hasn't been shut down. This is actual high treason. And once upon a time, people like this would have been facing very serious consequences for allowing this to happen. I don't just mean those involved in these organisations. I mean, those allowing it to happen as well. The senior management, absolute dereliction of duty on all people, all the way up to the Cabinet Office, that they've allowed this to happen, and absolute weakness as well. Just complete spineless people. I'll read a little bit more, and then I'll leave it at that. So, and I'll get on to that other article. They continued, far from shutting down the group or banning it from attempting to influence government policy, ministers and civil servants have endorsed it as part of their commitment to diversity. Well, that's the problem. Diversity at all costs. And I've said that before as well. These people are absolute sycophants, and they really, really do not care about the consequences of the fallout of this, because it's all about their endorphin hits and how they feel they appear to other people around them. Very, very dangerous people. Very, very dangerous that they're allowing this to happen. But here we have another article as well. So this was from this year as well, but this is from 18th of March, this one. So this is the Civil Service World, which is I've never read this before, but I believe it's an online newspaper around like civil service work. So anyway, Civil Service Muslim Network suspended over Israel-Gaza comments. So this isn't a brand new problem either. This is an issue that's obviously been highlighted in the past. Oliver Dowden orders suspension of network pending an investigation into comments by webinar conveners. The Civil Service Muslim Network has suspended its activities pending an investigation after reports that it had hosted events during which speakers had encouraged officials to lobby colleagues to change the government's policy on the conflict in Gaza. So here we can see directly we have a special interest group in the heart of government workings trying to directly influence government policies, and the civil service's job isn't to do that. The civil service's job is to do as they're told and follow orders. It's ministers decide or supposed to decide what happens, and the civil service is supposed to enact that. And yet here we're seeing the tail wagging the dog, as people like to say. Absolutely crazy. And I think these people should be sacked. instantly. Like, for trying to do, everybody involved in this network should be sacked. Everybody who's allowed it to happen should be sacked, and anybody who's been associated with it should be sacked. And if that results in 50% of the Home Office getting sacked, so be it. We'll just have to deal with that and cross that bridge as we come to it. This cannot be allowed to happen. It's really, really dangerous. And I'm wondering how many of these people in the civil, how much of the Home Office is actually made up of non-British people. I'd be very, very interested to know that. Now, I'm sure I've read it before as well, and I can't be 100% certain on this, so I could be getting confused, but I'm almost certain that the Home Office allow the hiring of people who don't even hold a British passport. So you could be somebody who lives abroad, and if my understanding is correct, you can apply to work for the Home Office and be employed by them. And I think that's crazy if that's true. I'm 99% certain that is accurate, but you have to take that with a pinch of salt, just in case I am misremembering or misquoting something. But I'm almost certain that that is right. But I'm only going. I'm not going to go any deeper into this article. I'm just showing you that this Muslim network isn't, although it's still quite a recent argument, this isn't anything new. And the fact that it's taken GB News to do this, have this leak come out and speak about it openly. But even now, I'm not hearing anything really widespread on the news about it. You know, and they are trying to keep it out of the news, it appears, by ignoring it. Very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And this is what people need to be thinking about when they're voting as well, and who you're voting for, and how people are going to deal with this sort of stuff, and stand up to these organisations as well. As I said the other day in my last video before this, on Friday, it's not just politicians that are a problem, although there are a lot of problem politicians, the overwhelming majority of them. This rot, and in my last video, I said it was the heads of these institutions and organisations. This rot goes much deeper. This is filtering all the way down to the seat polishers, so to speak, in the box cubicles, tapping away on the computers. This rot is right deep through the entire through all institutions of government. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. If you found that interesting or insightful, or something that you might look into a bit more yourself, please do like, subscribe. Definitely put a comment below, even if you disagree with what I say. I'm not a closed book. I'm open to having my mind changed. If you put a good enough argument there, I'll happily read it. And if it's a good argument, if it's a strong enough argument, I'll go, yeah, you know what, fair point. I do love replying to people as well. If I don't get straight back to you, just be patient. I'm probably giving I'm either very busy or giving your comment a lot of thought, which I do quite often as well. Thank you very much. Goodbye.